how can I use 4 different criteria in my if function here in Excel? So here I have 4 different rates and I need to use them in my if function in Excel. However, everyone knows that the if function in Excel just allows me to use one single condition. So how can I use four criteria in my if function in Excel? We're gonna use one function inside another function, or even we're gonna use here the if function within another if function. So this is called the nested function, and that way you can use as many as criteria that we need. And of course, that way you can solve this practical example, this problem that can happen to you. So here I have a salesperson, the sales, and the rate that I just automated with the if function. So let's find out now how can I use the if function to help me to solve the problem with 4 different conditions. Let's find it out. As you have here 4 different conditions to use in the if function, I can use equal sign, if function itself, or I can just use this last option here, ifs function. However, this last option here, this last function, does not have in all the Excel versions. So if you do not find this function in your Excel, do not freak out, because I'm gonna use this first option, the if function. I know that the if function just allow us to use one single criteria, just one condition. However, if I just keep in using the if function within the if function, I'm gonna use a nested function, a function within another function. I can use the if function within the if function, and that way you can use as many as criteria that we need. So here in this example, I have 4 different criteria to use. So I can use if function within the if function to help me solve this problem. Double click it, okay. So what is my first logical test? I want to make sure that I can just follow all these criteria that I have, all these criteria that need to be met. So the first thing I need to check, to look up, is if the sales is at least 100,000, greater than or equal to 100,000. And if it's met, I'm gonna just type it in, excellent. So here in the if function, my first logical test is I want to check out if the sales is greater than or equal to 100,000. Instead of just typing 100,000, I can just select the cell itself that contains the 100,000, because that way you can dynamically create this function. And whenever you just change the value that is here, 100,000, so let's say the value change and now it's 200,000. You can just change it in the cell, and the if function is gonna follow the change, so it's gonna auto update for you. So let me just select the cell G2 where I have the 100,000 value, and one important thing here is to just select the cell G2 and then press F4 key to lock the reference. So whenever we just click, hold and drag down, the function is gonna always take this first cell, the cell that contains the 100,000 value, okay? So let me just comma here, and as you guys see, when I just press comma, the if function is asking me to just insert if the value is true. So if this condition is true, what I need to type it in? I need to type it in, if this condition is true, the excellent word, or instead of just typing, I can make it dynamic. So I'm gonna select the cell itself, excellent, and F4 key to lock the reference, comma again, and now we just are in the final argument here in the if function. However, I just have more 3 criteria to use in the if function: the good, the average, and the poor. How can I use these 3 different criteria here in the if function? Now I can use the if function inside the if function, within the if function, and this is called the nested function. So let me just double click it. Okay, now I can use again a logical test. So now I'm gonna check if the sales is greater than or equal to 75,000. Let me just press F4 key to lock the reference, comma, and if this criteria is met, the value, if it's true, it's gonna be good. And then it's also important to lock the reference with the F4 key, comma. Now the if function is asking me the value if it's false. However, I did not finish yet, so let me just insert another if function within the if function, and let me make one more logical test here. If the sales values that I have right here in the left is greater than or equal to, let's say,
45,000, F4 key to lock the reference, gamma. If it's true, if it's met the condition, I want the result of average. So let me select the cell, F4 key again to lock the reference, and then I'm gonna press gamma. And I don't need to just use this last condition here, because look, if it's not excellent, if it's not good, and if it's not average, it's only can be poor. So it's just by eliminated. We just use this condition, this one here, and this one here. If the value is not, look here, I have a value that is less than 45,000, and if the value is less than 45,000, it's only can be poor. If it's big, if it's greater than, it can be average, good, or excellent. So we already make all these conditions here in the if function. So the value, if all these conditions are not met, it's just because I need to return the poor condition. So let me just press F4 key, close parentheses again, and one more time. So let's just press enter here, and we're done. We just make here the if function with 4 different conditions. Let me just double click here in the corner of the cell to make sure all the rows contain the same function, and we're done. We can just check it manually to see if you make everything is correct. However, everything here is corrected. We can just, let's say, check it manually, like this one here, 25,000 in sales. The rate is poor, and if you just check here our criteria range, you can see that 25,000, yeah, is equal to poor. So everything is done, everything is correct, and I hope this video can help you out. And if you have any questions, just comment down below, and I see you tomorrow, because every day has a new video. See you there.